to me, if you're going to manifest, if we're going to talk manifestation, I think this is never talked about. I think the idea is you have to be willing completely, by the way, and this is why I think it's so difficult for people. You have to be willing to completely disidentify with the old you. And that means the old partner and the ways of being around your family. And like I remember when I went through sort of my change, I was like, I'm not going to be this way and this human anymore. And it was tough for parents and friends and different people. And it did take some time for me to fall into that new way of being, but I completely disidentified with the old Jade. In other words, I would say, like I have that tattoo. You and I talked about death and memento mori. Like death to me means really killing off the old self, right? Like, so to me, I'm like, if we're really next level human oriented, growth oriented people, you have to kill your old self off repeatedly and step into new things, which is why, and you and I were having this conversation just a minute ago.
My brain works in like my process with it though.
All right, tell me.
Like I don't feel like I just was like, as much as I wanted to, be like, this part of me's dead. I'm never doing that thing again. Or I'm never saying those kinds of things, whatever it was. And it was never that easy. I couldn't just flip the switch and like, never again.
Okay.
It's something that I had to slowly, like, tiny step by tiny step, move through in my journey.
Okay, 100%. And maybe I should clarify. In the moment, the reason I was able to go, this part of me is dead, because I was at rock bottom at that time.
Yeah.
And at rock bottom, you can do a full severing. And I think you perhaps should. You're kind of forced to. But you're right. In other ways, it is a rejiggering, maybe not a full severing. Like I'm going to, adjust, my ways of being in alignment with what I want. That to me is manifestation. It's not magic. It's not sitting around this, thinking like The Secret, being like, oh, I'm going to think positive thoughts and get, positive things. It's like, no, I'm going to think positive thoughts. I'm going to align my feelings with that and what I am willing to tolerate and not tolerate. Then I'm going to make choices and take actions in that direction. And slowly but surely, I move in that direction. You don't want to talk about this?
Well, what comes up for me when we go there is like, well, the times in my life that and then later in my second relationship, my second marriage, I was then kind of told that it was my fault. But like this fear that all the bad things that had happened to me in my life that I had actually manifested. Like even my husband committed suicide. I used to have like these anxiety dreams of his major dramatic exits. And so it's sort of this decoding of, is that premonition? Is that manifesting bad shit happening to you because there's a hawk, because you're so deep in the negative thoughts, and those are primarily what you're thinking is negative thoughts. And then I guess from there it was like transcending out of the negative into the positive, and things started shifting a little bit in my experience.
Yeah, I think it's impossible for you to have manifested that, because I don't think that's how manifestation happens.
I don't know.
Like,
I would make an argument of that. Because like if you think like I'm afraid this is gonna happen, I'm afraid this is gonna happen. Maybe not suicide, but I'm afraid they're taking advantage of me. I'm afraid they're taking advantage of me, whatever it is. I think enough of that fear gets projected out, and that's what comes back to you energetically. Like you get the energy that you attract.
Yeah, and you would call that manifestation, because what I would call that is internal patterns. To me, that's.
But isn't it the same?
I don't think so, because
manifestation is, maybe it's an intentional.
Exactly.
But is it?
Yeah, to me, I think manifestation is 1,000% intentional. Otherwise, it's not. In other words, to me, the unconscious patterns that you have that deliver recurrent obstacles, repeated struggles, stuck emotions, those are things that are in our unconscious that we have picked up from child development, teen development, young adult development, that certainly can repeat. But manifestation is an intentional, I am going to create this outcome.
That's not my experience. You call me a master manifestor, and that may be the way that you see me, but I my manifestation, while I'm sure I can make a spin to say that it's intentional, it is not traditional ways of manifesting when I create. It is just, it is more of an energetic flow and an aligning with what feels right and what feels good and what comes with like a clear download and like no roadblocks.
Okay, we are talking about the same thing then, because the way I see it is like this. Things happen in life.
I don't do what you see people talking about online, which I actually did this morning, but I don't repeat the same, I want $700,000 this year. I want
Nor do I.
successful. I don't do this traditional way or journaling. I have done a gratitude journal before. I think gratitude and the practice of gratitude, it contributes to manifestation, but I don't think it's a linear path. It's more, the way I see it, is an energetic response that you get back based off of what you put out.
Okay, not surprising. We see it exactly the same way. So let me just see if I can square this and see if what I'm hearing you say is in alignment with how I see it.
Are we live right now? Are we going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The way I see it is exactly the same. I see life happens, okay? And I go, I have an alignment, and that alignment is my authentic self, okay? But this needs some explaining because it's not authentic to my past self who gets into all these negative patterns, and it's not authentic to my current self who's attached to my past. It's authentic to my next level human way of wanting to be. So that's step one for me. I have an alignment in who it is that I want to be, and there's some outcome there perhaps in regards to wealth, a partner, or something like that, health and fitness that is attached to that next level human I see myself. That's step one, authentic alignment. Now, step two is a loose attachment. This is where confident attachment comes in again. A loose sort of like, here's what I would like my life to look like. And I am projecting this thought out. And then I focus on the feeling of what that might feel like. And then I trust, and this is the part that I think you're saying, then I trust that life is going to happen.
Surrender.
And I surrender to the flow of that, and I trust that it might go here, and it might not look like I'm getting where I'm going, but if I hold on to that thought, my authentic alignment to my next level human self, and that feeling of gratitude and generosity and what it would feel like when I get there, that it will take me there. In fact, it often takes me to a place that's better than what I thought.
Yeah, and I would just, I guess what I hear when I think about what people are talking about and what instructions are being given in manifestation is that we can't really manifest these literal, tangible things like $1 million this year or a child or whatever it is, a partner, while we can't do it in this literal, tangible, linear sense. It is some energetic process of projecting out an alignment of who you want to be, like what you're saying, and then taking it back from there and fully surrendering to the flow of life, the journey that your soul is on, and trusting the process that, as long as you put out enough positive energy, you're going to continually be faced with negative things, and your choice of how you choose to respond to that negative thing continually aligns you with this destiny that you're headed towards, and will eventually put you, if you stay there, in alignment with what you actually really wanted in the first place.
I love listening to you talk about this because I do think you're a master manifester, and it gives me confidence.
But it's not literal in in this way that.
Sure, no, yeah. I agree, but it also given me confidence in a selfish way because I'm like, this reinforces to me that this is a process that I use. So could we say, and forgive me because I like to think in like linear sort of like here's the steps.
Yeah.
But to me, I go, could we say there's authentic alignment, there's an intentional, deliberate thought of what I want, there's an immersion in a feeling, and the final step is there's a surrender to the flow. So it's authentic alignment, intentional thought, feeling, and then surrender.
Taoism, surrender. I think the hardest part is finding that first step, which you're talking about, is, did you say intentional alignment?
The first part is authentic alignment.
Authentic
Second
alignment.
part is intentional thought, then immersion in the feeling, and then surrender to the
So authentic alignment for me, there has to be some awareness, intentionally or not intentionally, of purpose. Like, and I don't, while I would still have things that were clearly a part of the process that I trusted and things were falling into place in my life and experience, I still don't know that I had fully outlined my purpose in black and white or even had the language to define that in my path. But I think that there is some sort of surrendering to purpose through intuition. Even if you don't know exactly, you can't write the sentence or 3 sentences, whatever it is, my purpose is X. But it is a deep intuition that says, there's something here, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to leave here for the first time ever, and I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
And then that leads you down the path of aligning with authentic purpose, which I feel like is a really big part of what you need to live out your soul destiny.
Yeah. And I actually have a clinical story here that you get. I don't know if I've told you this story, but when I was in LA, I was working with a musician, a singer, female. Her dream and what she believed her purpose was is to be like a famous pop star. She loved pop music. She was like that. She lived and breathed that. Unfortunately, right? I'm no expert in, music, but unfortunately, no one thought other than her, thought she had the chops. So I guess it would be like someone going on American Idol thinking they could sing and realizing that whenever they go to audition or whatever, everyone else is like, actually, you're not that good. However, what ended up happening is we began to discuss this process that music was her life and that this was what she wanted to do. What she did realize in the process of trying on her voice, she realized, okay, I'm not great at singing, but I am really a master at identifying whose voices are good and helping them. And she ultimately ended up as a voice teacher and excelled at it and loved it. So the interesting thing about this purposeful journey, this is what I mean, alignment to the next level human self, and also giving up attachment and surrendering, is that if you pay attention to this intuition, it will point you in a direction that you may not understand. So she couldn't be happier being a voice coach, but there was a time where she was devastated that she could not be the pop star.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. It's a constant decoding of alignment with purpose and soul destiny and letting go, confidently detaching from the ego's expression of what that looks like.
100%.
And I don't necessarily think that, I don't know what it is with me and the word manifestation, because I think it's something that people desire and they seek and are striving for and want instructions for, but I don't really know that you are manifesting anything. I think what you're doing is just aligning with your soul purpose and soul destiny.
Yeah.
And that becomes this really fluid expression of a higher lived existence and connection to source energy. And
I like today's discussion because today you're playing my role. I agree with you. Like, normally I play the role of like, let's back off manifestation and talk about what we're really talking about. And I think it's astute. I agree. What we're calling manifestation, really, we could call it that if we want, but that's not really, people get it wrong in a sense. But I do think, and tell me what you think about this, I do think if we were going to give it a recipe, we did just give it one, but in that recipe, there's an awful lot of this intuitive sense, this flow. Like, in other words, it's not a one ABC 1, 2, 3. But I can tell you this: when I have been most powerful in seeing some of these, like, for example, when I got my first book deal, I can tell you, I literally, and I mean literally, was in that room in my mind. I saw myself in this high rise in New York City, take the elevator up. I saw myself getting off the elevator. I saw myself walking into a room. The only difference was all these people who were vying to buy my book were sitting at a square table. The way I had seen it in my dream was a round table.
Yeah.
So I have had twice in my life these manifestation things happen where I'm like, that happened just the way I visualized it.
Well, yeah, I think it's sort of visions or dreams is a big place that people, or for me at least, I manifest. It's visions and manifestations and this feeling of deja vu. You know, so can you manifest deja vu? No, there is just something that comes over, and you tap in and you say, "Shit, I've been here before," and you get this sort of tingly sense of whoa. And then you try to go back to, when did I see this? It could have been in a previous life. Was it in a dream? You know, and so I want to understand more about, I don't know how intentional we can be about that. I mean, I think if you, and tell me if I'm wrong, if you sat down and said, I'm going to manifest this, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about what it looks like when you get this book deal. And then when you got to that place, it was like, holy shit, this is exactly what I envisioned. Mm-hmm. Was that what happened?
That is exactly what happened. Okay. However, though, I can say this, and the way I might say,
what kind of guidance did you get to even envision that? And was it from intuition or was it from instruction of manifestation?
In this particular case, authentic alignment, meaning I actually was a very good writer.
Yeah.
Intentional, this is the part, the intentional part. Destiny. Yeah. And the intentional part was, in that part, in sending out the thought, that's where I would visualize. And then in the immersion in the feeling, I would imagine being in this room selling this and feeling what it feels like to get my first book deal. Uh-huh. But, and here's the difference perhaps than what I did. It was, again, it was a loosely attached vision. Mm-hmm. It's like I did not necessarily, put in New York City. I didn't necessarily put HarperCollins publisher. I just put, I'm going to be in this room at some point with people around who want to buy my book. It's kind of an example of this. Let's say
you just thought about that in regular consciousness or in a meditative state.
I meditated on that
for
years.
Okay, I think another part of it for me is like when we talk about manifestation in this really kind of base level egoic way, which says I want this house and I want this marriage or whatever, and then we follow these instructions and we take notes and we write our gratitude journal. I think that there's that's not the same frequency. If you can actually go into and have access, which takes a lot of time, to cultivate visions and meditative experience, I think that's a different access point and maybe a shortcut. But there is no shortcut to gaining the ability to meditate in that way.
Yeah. 100%.
That is the long road.
Well, let me ask you this, just because I don't think I've talked to you. If you had to say the most successful meditation, or the most successful manifestation, I know we don't want to use that word, but the most successful manifestation you've had in your life, what is it and how'd you get there?
Well, I have a list of things that I manifested this house, but I wasn't intentionally saying I'm going to manifest this house. It was just sort of happenstance and flow of energetics, and I've continually in my somatic work, which we'll have her on here one day with Naima Pierce. I do a lot of powerful womb and somatic body work with her. And we move through somatically in my body. We identify emotions. We do breath work. We visualize. It could be an inner child scene, or it could be, working through negative self-talk into positive self-talk in this big expression. And there's a vision that continually comes back to me when I manifested this part of my life and this house and my singledom and my where I'll be at and my self-awareness and self-love practice and spiritual practice. And it's here standing on this porch and there's a beautiful oak tree here. You guys can't see it. And then there's this gorgeous mountain view over here. And I've just rolled around in really what the feeling was like, not necessarily about being here on this porch and having this house, but it was more a manifestation of my fullest expression of self. But more tangible, one of the first biggest entrepreneurial risks that I took, or it was the first risk, was when my late husband and I were working corporate jobs in Charlotte, North Carolina, both in the commercial construction industry. Really had to began our self-development journey and therapy. We have this amazing therapist, I still see her to this day, who started just guiding us into envisioning what a more fulfilled life might look like, what a more fulfilled relationship looked like. We did do vision boards. And then we started, once we cultivated this wild ass dream that made no fucking sense, which was we wanna have a farm again. We wanna have farm to table food. We wanna have, animals in a vegetable garden. We want to live immersed in nature. We want to help heal veterans. We want to intertwine yoga and spiritual practice and just general health and wellness knowledge. We want to share that with a greater collective of people. Oh, yeah. And we want to somehow influence what we're doing with travel, which we love to travel. So how can we help inspire people to travel and find what we've found in our travels and gain perspective through their travels? And then we also loved to prepare food and serve food and host people. So we basically cultivated this over years of work, and little bit by little, and hard ass work, cultivated a farm and retreat center based on health and wellness, where we were the hosts and the energetic space, the vessel for people from all over the country and world really to come and find connection to nature, enjoy really amazing food, explore whatever elements of health and wellness they were interested in, or provide new insights in their healing journey. And that was the craziest combination. Oh, by the way, we both came to the table with, I just happen to have an accounting background. I just happen to have a construction background. He just happened to have a construction background. He just happened to be a military veteran. I just happened to have gone to school to be an artist and had a knack based off of my childhood experience for decor and design, and that combined with my construction experience, and just happened to love food and hosting. All of these attributes that we had perfectly predisposed us unintentionally for the fullest expression of ourselves and our life and our purpose and our destiny. So while, yes, there was intention, there was also this really fluid lesson in surrender and alignment with purpose and destiny that I could never have manifested that in this literal, tangible way.
I'm glad you went through that, because I think this is another thing that people miss about this. To me, when you go down this manifestation path,
yeah,
or sometimes manifestation tells you the path, life tells you the path, what you find is synchronicities, serendipities, these positive signs, new opportunities that all seem to be pointing in a direction. So I have the same kinds of things that have happened to me in my life where it's like, this makes too much sense. Like, how could all of this be flowing? And that's what you're talking about as well. So I think there's this synchronicity, serendipities, these signs, these opportunities that begin to present themselves that actually tell you you are on the manifestation track. And I think a lot of people will jump off that because, again, they're like, well, I want to be a pop star, instead of like everything pointing you to being the best voice coach.
Like, when you're manifesting, you don't have control. Because here's another piece. Guess what? My husband that I created this dream with ultimately committed suicide there, and ended up being what could have been the worst thing. You could shit all over the idea that this was this gorgeous manifestation, but in fact, the way that I've come to see it and why I'm sitting here today and why we connect and bond in the way that we do is 100% a manifestation of this fullest expression, where that tragic experience brought me to the next level in my human experience. And I chose to dive deeper and deeper into my knowledge and understanding of myself, and continuing to love myself and to grow and to continue on my spiritual journey. And I wouldn't be sitting here right now without that terrible thing also being a part of this fullest expression of my life experience. And I 100% while it's terrible and I miss him dearly, I 100% feel that that was meant to happen as a part of my soul's journey.
Mm. Yeah, and I guess you could say that there's like a soul level manifestation and a human school level manifestation. I mean, I have a belief that kind of squares this, but of course, it's just my belief, and other people might find it ridiculous. But I do believe there are certain things that we all must do. We come to, let's say, human school for a particular reason. I think one of them is to master emotions and master our creative potential, and create the life that we want to live in an emotional space. I think that's on the human school level, that we must deal with that and grapple with that. We must grapple with suffering. We must grapple with the fact that we choose our mental emotional state at every stage of our being.
Adversity.
So that's why we get struggles and adversity. And I also think on a soul level,
hashtag trust the process, even in the shit.
And I think at a soul level, that's where you could go, hashtag trust the process, because on a soul level, and whether this is just a cool story to tell to get through the hard shit in life, it doesn't matter because it's a good story and it does make a difference. But at a soul level, if you tell the story, I'm here to master this particular thing. Like I told you the story, I had a medicine journey where I got confronted with, if you believe in it, past life regression. Whether it was a past life regression or not, this imagery that came up for me was 100% something that is deeply related to my current struggles in life. And it was this idea of avoiding extremes and choose for myself.
Yeah.
And I do think there's certain things that we work through in that regard. The UPS guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I'm moving through this conversation with you, I mean, I'm coming more clear on my argument really around manifestation. And is it really manifestation, or is it just aligning with soul purpose and soul destiny?
I don't know that there needs to be a distinction there, because I would say that is, in a sense, manifestation, right? Because we go, there are certain things like
but if we're surrendering to the process, hashtag trust the process, trust the good, trust the bad, trust the challenges, trust, your breakthroughs and yourself, and carrying yourself with it. Like, isn't that then something that's already been assigned to you in your hologram of life pre coming into this lifetime, if you carry that belief system? And then maybe that's part of the disconnect here.
Yeah, sure, it is, but I still think that is in alignment with manifestation, because most people, what we do, let's say we're in human school and we're playing the game. The first stage of life is to be your manifestation and your true purpose to be hidden from you. Through child development, adolescent development, we get the message we're not good enough, we're not safe. So part of manifestation is uncoupling all of that and getting clear on your North Star.
Awakening.
100%.
So step one is awakening yourself.
And I would say yes.
Waking the fuck up. And the majority of the population isn't fully awake.
Okay. And so to me, I love that. And what you're awakening to in my mind, and fight me on this, because I'm going back to the original sort of 1, 2, 3 steps. But I'm like, I think what you're awakening to is your next level human potential. I think where we get stuck and we stay asleep is being tied to past selves and current selves.
I think there's something before that, because before, and just in my own journey, to think about it, like before I could even process, okay, I want to be the fullest expression of me and align with my soul purpose and soul destiny, I first had to start, hearing a knock and being awakened. Awakened? Is that the right word? And how did I do that exactly? I mean, for me, it was I guess there was an organic curiosity that came, and an organic desire for knowledge and education in some of these alternative realms. And maybe, just maybe, before that came, say, religion being an example, or spiritual paths. There was a seeking, there was a rebellion of, the principles that were being taught to me. Like, this doesn't resonate. Then there was a seeking of truth, like, I really want to get down to the basis of truth, of which religion is the right one, is there one. And then this opening in my mind, while it didn't necessarily translate to my emotional self or my healing journey just yet, but it started with this rebellion desire for truth, organic curiosity, which led me in, for me, what was my path and destiny as far as.
I like it. So in your model, you would say there's an awakening and inner knowing that comes first, and then there's an alignment to authenticity, your authentic self, and then there's this visionary thought feeling based thing, and then I think we both agree there's this surrender. Would you say it works that way?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm an Aquarius, so I'm inherently a creative and a visionary, and that's kind of my superpower. So that's how the process looks for me. And maybe it looks a little different for everyone based off of what, their superpower is that they come into in life. So I think maybe that's part of the decoding, is that everybody's path looks a little bit different.
Yeah, and at the same time, people will look for recipes or ways of understanding how do I get the life that I want. And I think one of the things we also should talk around that we've skirted around with some of the examples. I don't think we truly know the life we want until we get to that point where you say, where we wake up, we have enough history.
Come out of social projections.
Yes, because if we're sitting there being like, I want to manifest, a beautiful husband. Like, to me, I'm like, that doesn't. There's
about social constructs.
Yes, and there's a maturity, and forgive me, maybe this will come across like I'm an asshole or something, but I think there's a maturity level that people who've grown past that understand. We just go, by the way, I know you think that that's going to make you feel fulfilled.
But guess what? Won't. Yeah.
It won't. And I think
more problems.
Yeah. It's almost like you need to go through life and have the things happen to you so that you can figure out how to have it back. It goes back to that saying of like, there's certain things that have to happen so you can get the lesson that you didn't know you needed.
Yeah.
So you could get to the place you didn't want to go. And in a weird way, that's manifestation. Now you can, in a sense, it would be like, I don't know, it would be like going to...
The only way out is through.
Sure. I think that cliche saying works here in a very good way.
Yeah.
And the vision I'm having is I'm like trying to think, like, imagine I'm in Hawaii and I see this beautiful volcanic mountain, right? And I also have this feeling of this night sky and this North Star that's right above it. I can focus on the mountain if I'm lost, but that's not going to get me there. It's not enough. It doesn't give me direction. But if I focus on the North Star, that's a direction I can go with. And I may indeed eventually find that, or find an island that's even better.
And I'm guessing that's the basis of why we started forming religion and spiritual practices anyway.
Say more.
Well, I mean, what I hear when you talk about the North Star, and that is a spiritual perspective of, something to focus ourselves on, which ultimately lead to a higher good and in service of a higher energy or a greater power, whichever language you want to use based off of whichever religion or spiritual alignment that you're in.
Yeah, I like that idea. To wrap this up, I'm curious. Well, I'm curious to know what you're trying to manifest in your life right now, or trying to bring to manifest, like to create.
I don't manifest like that.
Then what is, like, I'm just thinking, what is,
I'm just continually trying to tap into what feels in flow, what feels like the path or the river that I'm supposed to float down, and gathering through all the lessons that I'm supposed to learn, helping my soul live this lifetime to the fullest and highest expression, and being as open and vulnerable to myself and the parts of myself that I've come here to learn, my karmas, so that I can, to kind of use you grow me language, make it to the next level in the next lifetime, or maybe some parts in this lifetime.
So your intention is to just more and more fall into flow.
Yeah, it's more of aligning myself and my soul into a higher frequency and expression it's not like I'm chasing nirvana or enlightenment, but really that is somewhat of the spiritual, that is the North Star in the spiritual journey. This detachment from ego. It's funny because I started my spiritual path that way as a young girl in college. I have nirvana in tiny, tiny print tattooed on in this butterfly, haha, that I have on my side. It's the first tattoo that I got. And at that point in time, I really thought that I could be like Buddha and achieve nirvana if I tried hard enough in this lifetime. While I've detached from that end result and fully come to know that my path as a human is not a linear path and the path is up and down and sideways and backwards, that is part of my path, is surrendering to that and detaching from that outcome. I have to wrap up. Someone's about to.
I love that.
Knock on the door.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.